Um, I work in in secular institution, a state institution. I provide services, not only religious services for my own, representing my own faith as Jewish services and as a rabbi, but I also facilitate what we call spirituality groups here in the institution where I work, and those are non-denominational. You don't even have to be religious. We're talking about spirituality, and as the state defines it, it's whatever makes your life meaningful. Of course, religion and all these things are a major part of that, but it's not the be-all and end-all. That being said, being in a secular setting like this, talking about spiritual matters, really helps me to understand my own spirituality and a lot of things, in life that I probably wouldn't get in these perspectives otherwise, and I appreciate that, and I'm thankful to God for that. And sometimes discussing things like that, we gain perspectives that we otherwise wouldn't have. Now, I'm saying this because yesterday a question came up. There was a fellow, he wanted to know what is the Jewish perspective on intermarriage, because he said he was Catholic, and he was engaged to a Jewish girl, and they were very acceptive of him, and what is my perspective? And first of all, I have to say, I'm not here to pontificate. If you want to know me as an Orthodox Jew, we don't allow intermarriage. If you would want to marry her according to the Jewish law, you'd have to convert. But a fact of the matter of the world is that most Jewish people are not religious, certainly not in the Orthodox or the conservative way that would agree with that. The Reform, the Reconstructionists, and these other groups tend to say they do permit this. And of course, I disagree with them. But again, it's not my place to impose my will in a free society. And it's a fact of life. But that being said, in the discussion and what came out of it, I think I gained very interesting insights I want to share, and that's why I'm making this video, really. I remember in high school, my yeshiva, Beli Freilich Shlita, he would often mention what he remembered from the 70s, an episode of All in the Family. I never saw this episode, but I'm telling you how I heard it in yeshiva. So he said that there was one episode where Archie Bunker's niece was marrying a Jewish young man. And he said, you can picture Archie Bunker with a yarmulke sitting in the temple waiting for the rehearsal. That's something we usually don't have in our traditional Orthodox circles, a wedding rehearsal. But of course, in the secular society, and wedding planners and all love to be able to charge for something extra, I have my wedding business. I don't really like to do rehearsals usually. I do them once in a while, very rarely. But then I get to charge a little extra for that. To me, it feels like it's a waste of time, a waste of money. I know I get up and I read what I'm reading, and that's it. It's not really necessary. But again, the more fancy weddings, and they have money to burn, and they'll have a rehearsal. Now, that being said, but this was part of the plot. It was a plot point in the episode. So they're waiting for the groom. The groom is already an hour late for the rehearsal. Where is he? The rabbi's waiting. Everybody's waiting. The groom shows up. Finally, they said, "Where were you?" And he said, "Oh, honey, you won't believe it. I found the perfect house, and I put a down payment on it." And she said, "You did what? You put a down payment on the house? I didn't even see the house. What did you do? How do you do such a thing? You don't me? How did you do that?" And he said, "Well, honey, I had to do it because the real estate agent said if I don't do it now, I won't get this really good price on the property." And she said, "Oh, you cheap Jew." And then they broke up because of that. And so, the yeshiva, he would say, there's a deep lesson in that you think you love each other, but then something's going to come out at some point. Now, I can see the truth of what he's saying, but on the other hand, when I tell a story like that, even though it's coming from a secular source, it's uncomfortable to say that, to talk in a modern society like that, because in general that's not going to happen. Maybe in the 70s, even though the young people in the show, they all were proud of their liberalism, there might have been still some vestiges of the old ways, but now we're another few generations later, a generation or two later, and things are a little different. So is that still the case? And when we think about it, we were thinking about it yesterday, we were discussing it, and I said ultimately the issues are not issues of religion. I'm saying from a secular standpoint. Obviously from a religious standpoint, meaning part of what I'm saying here is that you can't just make scare arguments to make someone comply. That's first of all. That's, the way that Kiruv works so much to scare people into compliance, it doesn't really work, and a lot of great thinkers understood that already. You'll excuse me, this is not someone who I'm in total agreement with, but I have respect for, and he was given a little bit of a bad rap. He wasn't quite the way that people painted him, as is often the case. All kinds of situations. But Rabbi Meir Kahane wrote an article for the Jewish press. I remember I said once that I saw something, someone was writing about Meir Kahane, and they said he was the only one who wrote in English in the Jewish press. I remember the principal of my high school, the English principal, she said, the Jewish press is not written in English, it's written in Brooklyn. All right. But Meir Kahane, he was very good in English, and he wrote an article, and you'll excuse the title, it might be offensive, but he wasn't trying to be offensive. He was trying to make a point. The article was called Goyim, Cholent, and Torah. Or Goyim, I think it was Goyim, Cholent, and Torah. You might be able to find it online, article. It's a brilliant article, because it brings out just this point, He said, you want to tell someone, don't intermarry. Why? Because the Goyim are going to kill you. They did a Holocaust. I said, that's not true. He was honest enough to say that's not true. Meir Kahane, who everyone said was a racist, was not a racist. He had respect for other religions and cultures. He always said, I wish, even the Arabs, everyone said he hated, he said, I wish the Arabs well. He said he had no ill will toward them. He wanted real peace. All right, we're getting off the topic. Nowadays, they're not out to kill us. If anything, I'm more worried, and he was more worried. Meir Kahane was more worried about the secular Jews than about the Gentiles, because he himself, he often compared himself. A friend of mine, Paul Joseph, should be well. He said once, he was sitting with Meir Kahane, and he said, you know what they did to the Han? And he said, yep. Meaning he never thought that an Arab would kill him. He always thought the Israelis would kill him. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Israelis were really behind it and they put him up to it. The Arab who killed him. I wouldn't be surprised. But the point, what I'm saying here is, we don't have any problems with non-Jews anymore. We get along with everybody now. That nobody's out to get us like it was in the old days. The secular Jews are out to get us, especially the Orthodox Jews. We see that like in places like Bloomingburg and Monroe. All the people fighting the Hasidim are all secular Jews, or they have connections to secular Jews. That's not the, and I don't mean all secular Jews are bad. There are plenty of very good secular Jews, wonderful, wonderful people who are not in that mindset that comes from the Sabbatean, Frankist, communist background. But I'm really getting off subject here. Then he said, Cholent, the geschmack of our culture, that's what keeps us Jewish and from preventing intermarriage, whatever. And he said again, but these other cultures are just as good. So then Meir Kahane said, the only answer we have is Torah. The Torah says so. We have convincing apologetics why we believe in the Torah, why we believe it's true, and that's it. And that's why, and that's what it's all about. And again, so that's my answer. If someone's not frum, how do you tell someone who doesn't believe in the Torah not to intermarry? And why shouldn't they intermarry? How is intermarriage different than breaking Shabbos? Breaking Shabbos is probably worse. I mean, that's the truth. It's good when Jews marry Jews, but it's good when Jews who believe in Judaism, who believe Judaism is valuable as a religion, not just because of some racial nonsense, when and like-minded, meaning, even there are, like I said, Jews who are not Orthodox, but who recognize what Judaism is really about, and are really part of Klal Yisrael in that way. But again, I'm getting away from my subject because that's not really what I want to bring out here. Essentially, back to the more worldly view, not the parochial view we've been talking until this point, when we made this little segue, this little tangent, is like this. It's not about, again, this scare tactic of this All in the Family story. It doesn't hold water. That's what Meir Kahane was saying. It doesn't hold water. Meaning, the only thing that holds water is Torah, is explaining to people that the Torah is true. But let's go back to the worldly, secular point of view now. The fact of the matter is that it's not like that. Not like this story with All in the Family, not with all people, not in every case. There are many interfaith relationships that work very well. It takes work. It's not easy. It's a different type of challenge than you have. That's true. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it has nothing to do with religion. Of course, our religion has its rules, and we got to follow those rules as religious people. 100%. I'm not saying not to. I'm not saying intermarriage is good. I'm saying it's a fact of the, but it's certainly not from a religious standpoint. From a secular standpoint, it's really none of our business. If someone's not religious, what difference does it make? How's it any different than eating a cheeseburger, But that's not the point I'm making. Let's go further to something, into a whole different situation. And this is really the important aspect I want to bring out, and hopefully people made it this far, because I go on and on and on. So how do we answer this? Is this a phenomenon or is it not? And the answer is, it has nothing to do with religion, really has nothing to do with culture either. Love, relationships can transcend cultures and even religions. It's a fact of the world. It's true. You can't scare people into thinking otherwise, is the way that many people do. It's just not true. That being said, so what is it? Now, and what it really comes down to is our own personalities as individuals, not necessarily our religions or our cultures. Meaning, religion and culture can be used in one of two ways. It can be used as a tool to make your life better, as a tool to make your relationships better, as a tool to make society better. And they're wonderful things. But religion and culture in and of itself is neither good or bad. It all depends on how we use it. Because just the same, religion and culture can be used as a weapon in our own personal lives, a weapon in our relationships, and a weapon in society. A lot of people want to say, oh, the world would be so much better without religion. Religion is the number one cause of war. It's not true. There's so many good things that every religion has brought to the world. And there are bad things. But the issue is not really with the religion, but rather how the religion is used or abused. And so too, if someone uses their religion as a tool to make their lives better, to make society better, to make the relationships better, that's what it's there for. If someone uses religion as a weapon, or culture as a weapon, it's very dangerous, and it's very unfortunate. And that's what we don't want to use. And people are guilty of that all the time, but sometimes when they're used as a weapon, God still has a plan. There might be, a kid in a public school never thinks about being Jewish. It's not really on his radar. But then, when it comes the time that the bully is picking on him for his religion or his culture, it doesn't have to be Jewish, it could be whatever your religion or your culture is, it wakes them up and makes them maybe think about it more. So these are the types of things that we have to think about in life. Stop and think, when you're using your religion, are you using it as a tool or as a weapon? Your religion or your culture, really. And in that context, what we talk about in our spirituality groups and so forth, it really comes down to what we were talking about. And it's also, in my last video, I was talking about Dr. Greer and how I was fascinated by his statements. Whether or not I believe what he's saying is neither here nor there, but he brought out a very deep idea. He said that all intelligent beings in the universe are all united. He said that the beings on other planets are just as human as we are by virtue of their intelligence, because we all come from the singularity, which is something I do believe. We all come from one God, created us all. And in human society, we've seen this tendency to make war, to make someone the other, to alienate someone else, and in order to build up power by creating these struggles and so forth. And that's been damaging to society. But there's also this potential of unity and peace and love throughout the universe, throughout our planet and throughout the universe. And the question is, well, which are we? What are we going to do? Are we going to use our religion, our culture, our nationality even our planetary identity, perhaps as a tool to embetter ourselves, a source of positive pride that's not arrogant, but is rather a pride that helps us to grow and be better in life? Or is it going to be this negative, this weapon? And whatever it is, let's try to use our religion, our cultures, never as a weapon. And we all might be guilty of that, even in relationships that are of the same religion or culture. There's abuse that happens on all different levels. Let's try to use them as tools and not as weapons. And in that way we can grow and become better people, more unified, more connected to the unity of God, and eventually really see peace. And so, again, these scare tactics, don't let them scare you, you know. If you believe in Torah, so you follow the Torah. That should be good enough. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. I think this is an important message. I hope I hope and pray that I can embrace it, because I've seen in my own life where I've failed in this matter. And so, by gaining this insight, I hope we'll be able to work this out, you know. And I hope I'll be able to make myself a little bit closer to what we're supposed to do. All right. Thank you for watching. God bless.